Okay, so then we go to DC motors. So originally, Edison was the big proponent of DC. Westinghouse was the proponent of AC. And of course, Tesla worked with Westinghouse. And the big reason that AC took over from DC was a simple fact that when you generated DC at a specific voltage, there was no way to make it go up or down. So if you had a generating plant and you wanted, say, 200 volts DC, the generator had to put out 200 volts DC, and everything had to run on 200 volts. Well, in AC, transformers work. Because of the alternating current, the magnetization that makes the motor turn also means you can transfer power through magnetism with coils that have different ratios. You have 100 turns here, you have 1,000 turns here. The output of that transformer will be 10 times what the input is. So the power plants now put out large, high voltage, maybe 13,000, 20,000 volts on their big generators, and then they go through a set of transformers and they jack it up to 250,000 volts, 500,000 volts, because as the current voltage goes up, the current goes down and the carrying capacity of the wires becomes enormous. Right? It's a straight ratio. 100 volts at 10 amps is 1 amp at 1,000 volts, but it's 1,000 times 1 equals 10 times 100. So that's why when the first commercial power plant in the U.S., I believe, was the Niagara Falls plant that was hydroelectric, and Buffalo, New York, got the first AC power system, and it was practical because the generators in the hydroelectric put out 1 voltage, they stepped it up to a much higher voltage and were able to carry it, hundreds of miles without enormous losses. Now, surprisingly, DC's making a comeback in really high voltage transmission. It turns out that DC is more efficient than AC if it's at the high voltage. And the big thing that happened that's making it happen is that they're now able to generate AC to high voltages, change it to DC, and at the other end, change it back to AC through inverters. So that's happening. Some of the biggest power lines in the world are now being built in DC. That's only because modern electronics allowed us to convert from AC to DC. Before that, it just simply wasn't practical.